All right. Well, hello and welcome to Leading Inclusive Partnerships for Our School, Principles, Perspectives, and Practices presented by Chad Slife. I'm Kristen Bellamy Lloyd, a SIP program specialist, and I am thrilled to be your moderator for this breakout session. First, a few logistics. This session will be recorded and archived on the conference agenda page after this conference for 1 month. So you have 30 days to access these and others if you choose. Closed captioning is available by clicking on the CC button in the right-hand corner of your screen, and the interpretation icon is in the same area and will also provide access to Spanish translation. We will ensure that the ASL interpreters are spotlighted along with the PowerPoint and the presenter. Please ensure that your volume is muted to avoid background distractions while the presenters speak. But we encourage you to share your faces and engage with others in the chat. Please keep your camera on if you feel comfortable so that we can see your lovely faces. And don't be upset if I mute you because everyone is talking or we hear some background noise. And with that, Chad, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kristen, and hello, everyone. As Kristen so eloquently introduced, I am Chad Slife. I work for the San Mateo County Office of Education in the Bay Area of California. I'm a coordinator in our Center for Access and Engagement, and we do many things, including works with inclusive environments. And so I'm really excited here to share with you, as Kristen also said, my presentation today about leading inclusive partnerships for our schools, my own principal perspectives and practices. So let's party, shall we? I always like to just acknowledge where we are. So ironically, I'm not in the Bay Area today. I'll explain that in a moment. But depending where you are on this planet, I like to give a quiet moment to acknowledge where we sit physically and geographically. Many of us, including myself, living in a place that is not actually mine. I am part Native American, so this is even closer to my heart to just acknowledge our land and those that came before us. This land acknowledgement, I give honor to our San Mateo County Office of Education for having written it, for the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the Native Indigenous people who live in and around the Bay Area of California. So I'm just going to give a quiet moment to acknowledge where we are in this space today. All right, thank you for that. And where I am right now. So why I might be a little all over the place is I'm literally out on the campus of Vanderbilt University in a private little library room because I'm graduating tomorrow with my doctorate degree. And so I'm managing many things at once. So I'm just doing that. So if you want to give me a little grace while we're going today, but just know that's actually where I am right now as I speak to you. And that is Vanderbilt's lovely campus. So who am I? Like I said, I'm very happy to work for the San Mateo County Office of Education, our Center for Access and Engagement, but just a little bit more about me. So I am white and Hispanic, born and raised in the city of Riverside, California, in Southern California, about an hour east of Los Angeles. I am very proud to say of my immense family. I am the first generation college graduate, and to this day, one of only two college graduates in my entire extended family, the other one being my younger sister. And so I just hold near and dear to that, how I like to build connections with people and know and honor that it's not an easy journey for any of us. I'm also a very proud husband, uncle, son, and dog daddy. Very proud of my 13-year-old Jack Russell Terrier named Hemingway, who's staying with friends right now. I moonlight, and we always need to have passions outside of what we do every day and more to our identity. And so in addition to me being a longtime educator, I also am a certified personal trainer and spin instructor. So if you're around the Bay Area and need a boot camp, let me know. I'd be happy to do that for you. And then my relevance for today, so I have over 20 years experience working at school sites. I began as a teacher, then an academic coach, an assistant principal, a principal, central office leadership, and now county office leadership. And my hold close, near and dear is that students come first in this job. That's why we're here and why we should be here. So that is me. for you to know. Now, if we are adept at going into the chat, it's okay if you're not in the mood right now, but just to get our brains going, I just ask, why are you here today? Why are you in this space? Maybe out of the options at the time right now, why are you in this session? And so I love Adam Grant. So whenever I can publicize Adam Grant and all his brain work, I love to do that. And this Venn diagram just makes me giggle. I'm an 80s, 90s kid. So if you can hear Backstreet Boys singing, tell me why right now. That's why I love this. But it just really goes into why are we here? So if you want to jump into the chat, that's a fun way to get us going. And I'll give you a moment to do that. Oh, thanks for all the congrats. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. And hi, Sarah. And okay, spin. We'll make some classes happen. And just to share my why, I somewhat alluded to it at the beginning slide. My why is really for students first. I am the oldest of about a dozen grandchildren, and I am one of those that I kind of wish I would have known at a much younger age to really look out for younger cousins who have had a very rough navigation of life. So my family actually being incarcerated. And so I just really, we got to be there for each other, especially our students. And great, more information, building inclusive practices, getting our admin credentials, awesome, welcome to the world. Systemic supports, yes, systems are important. And thank you, I love this, supporting all of our students. And so I hope I give you a good enough perspective to enjoy today. So thank you for that, and keep it going in the chat. It's how we can communicate in the Zoom environment. I also like to acknowledge everything that happens in May, and this is not all of it, but just to honor space too, to the many heritages and cultures that are honored throughout the month of May. Speaking of the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Jewish Heritage Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, also Hearing and Speech Month, in addition to many others, but really just acknowledging all those wonderful events that we can be honoring today with each other and our students. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty. So I love the Castle framework. We use it a lot in our office and our center. And so we're going to really start with an inclusion activity here in a moment with using the Castle framework. I'm going to, hopefully engaging you with my story and a lot of helpful tips from those principal perspectives on building inclusive communities in and around our school settings, and hopefully give you some easy, logical next steps, and then close out optimistically today in community together. Now, objectives for today. There are 3 you can read here, and I'll read them to you quickly. That I really hope you leave understanding strategies that include and empower all stakeholders in your community to feel like a valued partner. I'm going to frame inclusive practices for sites around equity and cultural awareness, knowing who's at our school and how we honor them. And then hopefully also walk away with next steps to support your communities in building those inclusive and equitable school experiences that really foster a sense of belonging for all. So let's get welcomed. I found this quote a while back. It just really spoke to me. We may all be different fish, but at this school we swim together. So to get to know each other a little more, if you wouldn't mind again going to the chat, let's throw in our name, and if you're comfortable with either actually, your name, title, or role, and then how do you or can you help the fish swim together? Think of our locus of control. How do we help our fish swim together? And Kristen, I'm going to ask a quick question for you. I saw here in the chat. I believe folks will have access to a recorded session. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you. I saw that in our chat.
Yeah, and
And
they'll
school
have
nurses,
access
yes,
for
we're
30
honored
days.
too. And Teacher Appreciation Week. Yes, there's so much going on in May. Thank you for that shout out in the chat. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Mary. And Robin, Kathy. I like exploring beliefs, mental models. Having a clear vision, yes, extremely important, especially if you're new to a site and a leadership role. Yeah, Ford, thank you. Swimming together at our own pace. Thank you, everyone. Super social. Me too. Meeting fish where they are in their journey. Yes, as they're in that immense sea we call education. Thank you, and I hope you can enjoy each other's chat as I move along here as we swim together in this hour session. So, what I'm really focusing on today within inclusion is really thinking about how we can also integrate co-located classrooms. So I'm going to be using multiple lenses. I'm going to use the lens of a principal or leader at a school site. I'm going to use the lens of simply just building cultural awareness and inclusivity as part of our vision at a site. And lastly, for those of us who may have co-located classrooms on a school site, how do we bring that together? And if you're asking, well, Chad, what do you mean by co-located classrooms? Let me give you an example. So in many of my previous principal experiences, I was at sites where I had multiple programs sharing my school site. Most recently, principalship I had preschool through fifth grade on my site. But the preschool general education classrooms, of which I had two, were technically, I was not their principal. They used our school site for our district preschool program. And so they had their own principal who bounced around school sites all day, every day. But I had to find a way to make them feel included and involved in our school community because those children, those staff, they were there every day with us. And so that is an example, special day classes, if you have special unique programs at your site, how to include them in the school community so they feel seen and heard and are part of that school community. It breaks my heart when I hear folks are coming there every day, but they feel overlooked or ignored. And so we want to interrupt that, especially for our students, so they feel valued coming to school every day. People know who they are and know why they're there. So, what is the ideal inclusive school? Just want you to think for a moment. This is always if I could make it my own, what would the ideal inclusive school look like? And folks, I love being in person. So Zoom is always it's a different thing for me. But if there's maybe one person who's brave, Kristen, I hope this is okay. One person who's brave to unmute and share, hand the mic over to you. And what's your ideal inclusive school? Give it a pause, and if no one really wants to jump forward, that's okay. But if someone wants to unmute and share, what's your ideal inclusive school? And Tammy, I saw a raised hand. Go for it, Tammy.
I would say that it's where all students are together and nobody knows each other's learning level, right? Like it didn't matter if you were gifted and talented or if you were a struggling reader, everybody's just there together and no one knows everybody's level. They're all kind of just working together towards a common goal.
Thank you, Tammy, so much for sharing that. I appreciate that perspective as well. Really being honoring like confidentiality within our school community as well. Even if it's not requested, but being respectful of that, and that we're all there together. There are no levels. There is no exclusion because of how we learn or what we need. Thank you, Tammy, for being brave and unmuting to that question. So big dreams, folks. We got big dreams. So let's do more with it. Now, I always like to tie it in. Part of my role here at our Center for Access and Engagement is really working within the California MTSS framework, which my fellow Californians may be very familiar with. And I just like to highlight the framework because inclusion is all over it. So there you see. All three main aspects of the whole child domain and within the essential domains, inclusion pops up. Being very important and keeping always that inclusive lens on what we do and how we do it. So I always just like to spotlight that for you as well, because I know a lot of us have our hands likely deep in MTSS in one way, shape, or form. And, it's always one of those fun buzzword acronyms within education. And you can't have a presentation without mentioning Brene Brown. So, daring to lead. I really enjoy this quote by Brene, just because I think it really gets to the heart of belonging. So I'll read it for you here. A deep sense of love and belonging is an irreducible need of all people. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. When those needs are met, we don't function as we were, when those needs are not met, we don't function as we were meant to. We break, we fall apart, we numb, we ache, we hurt others, we get sick. So we really want to make sure that we are doing that wiring within our locus of control to make folks feel loved and that they belong. Now, elements of creating a safe and inclusive space. Number one, you got to create that welcoming atmosphere. And when I was a principal, I made sure every day of those 180 school days per year, I was in front of our school greeting students and welcoming families. So they were seen, I knew their names, I quizzed myself, I used the yearbooks, because it is so important that, oh, they see me. I now feel like I can walk inside. So developing that welcoming atmosphere. Do you greet your students at the door? I really hope you do. Get all those PBIS strategies. It provides diversity. It gives a sense of belonging to each and every one there if you create these spaces, and you provide a supportive relationship. Goes back to what Tammy was sharing. You are supporting everyone with all their individual needs. Now, a little bit about my story and why this became such a passion for me. So I'm a Teach for America kid. I was not Teach for a while. I was Teach for a career. And so like many fellow friends here, I got the luck of the draw, what I wanted, and I landed in the Bay Area. And so I was a Teach for America Corps member. I was not an education graduate of my undergrad. I actually was a public relations major, but I decided I wanted to flip the script. And I loved working at summer camps as a teenager, as a college student. And I was like, you know what? I like those relationships. I thrive off relationships. And so I got into Teach for America, and immediately I just fell in love with what I did. I taught in San Francisco Unified as a middle school teacher. I taught in Ravenswood City School District in East Palo Alto, and I saw a variance of inclusive campuses. My first school as a 22-year-old teacher did have an inclusion model. This was new to me. I had an experience as a child. I saw segregation when I was in my elementary, middle school, high school experiences. Those students were considered other and went to other spaces on campus and did not hang out with those of us who maybe didn't need any other programs outside of the general education program. Well, my inclusion model was amazing. I was a middle school teacher, and I had students who cognitively may be a 3-year-old, but they were in my 8th grade classroom. They were part of our community, and it was beautiful. I don't like to tell the story too much in a virtual setting because it makes me tear up, and I got to make it through my presentation. But it was just beautiful to see that community built. And so I spent a lot of time in San Francisco Unified. I went and got my admin credential, and I was inspired. I wanted to really create these communities everywhere. And so I got into school leadership, moved back down to Los Angeles, where I had earned my undergrad, and helped start a charter school as a founding teacher at the school, and really building inclusivity within our small charter school in South LA. I had a great experience there, but quite honestly, my Bay Area friends, I missed the Bay. I had a significant other there to share a little personal, and I moved back to the Bay and was the founding assistant principal at Gateway Middle School, where we really took in restorative practices, a full inclusion model, again, with a full learning center for all of our students with IEPs, and we saw it thrive. We saw our students included, we saw our students building friendships across the spectrum, and it was beautiful. And so I then moved on to district leadership at principalships in San Francisco Unified and San Mateo Foster City. And then I was ready to expand my horizon, and that's how I landed in the San Mateo County Office of Education, and thankfully landed in our center where I get to do this work on the daily, and is why I'm here today. So that is my soapbox. You see many of my beautiful past kiddos who are much older now highlighted on this screen, but just really building lasting relationships. And to be inclusive is wonderful. I have students in their early 30s, and I'm getting wedding invitations now, which makes me feel very old. But it also realizes, hey, I must have did something cool while I was in the classroom. So that changed. I'm going to ask about another brave person here. So my colleagues have shared this with me, and I love it, the results pyramid. And this is where we're going to start. So we have to really start at the bottom there, thinking about what experiences are we creating in our school environment? And how is that feeding into the beliefs we share in our school environment? Those beliefs feed into the actions we do every day, and hopefully they are providing the results we want to see. So I have another brave person who wouldn't mind unmuting. What experiences can we create for school communities that begin this change? Do I have a brave voice? I'm okay.
Universal design for learning training.
Yeah, Allison, sorry, go ahead.
Training in universal design for learning, the infrastructure for districts, the training for teachers, and the resources and the time needed to implement it.
Thank you for highlighting UDL. I do many UDL workshops. Yes, universal design for learning, showing the principles of engagement, representation, action, and expression can really help that systemic change. Thank you for that, Allison. Also, we know mindset is everything. We need that growth mindset. And I love what Culture Partners really highlights, the kinds of experiences we can create. So many of us who are sitting in seats where we can really interrupt the systems that are providing the status quo and really shake it up, thinking about the inequitable policies and practices that we see happening. How can we change those experiences within the systems to make them more inclusive? Think of all the stories that we share. Storytelling is so important in how we build and create a culture. So what stories are being shared? And in our day-to-day, what firsthand experiences are we providing for everyone we work with and everyone we serve? That is monumental to what we're doing. And thank you, Kayla, for that as well, like including the teachers and other voices in that policy and leadership. We need those diverse voices on our leadership teams at all times. And part of that is really helping people feel belonging. And so we talk a lot about authentic belonging and how we do that. It's just getting to know each other. That's why I do so many touchy-feely things at the beginning of a presentation, because what I teach in restorative practices too is most often, the more we know about each other, the less likely we are to want to harm one another. Sometimes outside of your siblings or your significant others, but that's another story. But we want to build relationships, so we don't want to cause harm. So I'm going to go ahead and share a video with you. It's brief, but I just love what the educators share here and what's highlighted and how we create that sense of belonging. And then I'm going to go into some more practical perspectives. So here we go.
Anything else special happened this weekend, friends?
In the pool, I did a cannonball. I know how to swim.
You know how to swim?
I know how to blow bubbles underwater.
You
Me
do?
too.
As human beings, one of the most essential needs we have is the need to belong. In school, children need a sense of belonging to be able to be productive learners. They need to be connected to their fellow students, connected to their teachers, to also be affirmed in who they are in a way that is positive and accepting.
I don't take swimming lessons.
In a belonging classroom, there's a community being explicitly built. The teacher knows each child and things about each of those children that they can mention and draw on.
I pay attention, I listen. I'm really invested in what they tell me. The students feeling loved, students feeling nurtured, students feeling like they have a place at school, they're safe. It activates their brain cells.
Sense of belonging is one of the most important activators of a child's engagement in learning. Everything about activating a child's cognitive skills begins with activating their social connectedness. The energy for learning is coming from the social connection that children have.
But in the end, we're trying to come up with an agreement.
Excellent. We're not going to comment, question. We're only going to encourage. Because they're culturally and linguistically diverse students, I want to really make sure that we are making them feel connections. All the writing we do in our class, it's very much about them. It helps them, promotes them to find their own voice and to share their stories.
Sometimes people think every Muslim person is a target or is a terrorist.
Thank you, Anissa.
What did this show us about what we are good at as a group?
Working together, because we often argue a lot.
Today, we did an activity that was really designed to get them thinking about how they're going to support each other. I think that reiterating the idea that we're in this together, I think it's hard to find the time, but doing some team building exercises at the beginning of the year and revisiting them can really help illustrate that point.
In a belonging classroom, they have a community that may meet in classroom meetings to problem solve together, to read stories together, to tell successes and accomplishments or important events together. They celebrate like families do, things that each other have done or have experienced.
Let's talk about what we admire about some of our friends.
I admire Jazara because she is so compassionate.
And when we're talking about being compassionate and being supportive of one another, it's to build that deeper connection for everyone, just to feel like this is their school family, this is somewhere they're loved, they're nurtured, they're taken care of, they're valued.
Thank you for speaking.
The community becomes a place where you can bring your emotions, your fears, your needs. You can be honest about what's going on and know that there will be acceptance, support, and love that's available to carry you through.
We all can work together and we all can try to strategize together and create a better pathway for others to be successful. And we can make it fun.
They're working together. They take care of each other, not just personally, but academically.
We're always pushing each other.
Anything else special happen this weekend, friends?
All right. I hope you enjoyed that. The one student who says to be compassionate, oh, it gets me every time. You got to teach those students those expanded vocabularies about emotions and feelings. It's amazing. So now what? We're helping people feel, hopefully, that they belong at the school site. What are some common practices we can make sure we do to further create that sense of belonging and inclusivity? Well, first, we need to be aware of identities. We have to think about who is there. We have to make sure we're walking an anti-racist, anti-bias walk. Talk the talk, walk the walk. So really thinking about avoiding those singular identities, avoiding the use of labels. For example, using student-first language should definitely be a common practice by now. It is students with IEPs. It is not special ed kids. I just heard that yesterday at a school site I was at, so we're still working on it, folks. Thinking about multiple and intersecting identities, we all come very rich in who we are with very rich funds of knowledge, and we are not just one person, one identity. We have to think about all we bring into that school every day. And most importantly, ask ourselves who's been historically included and who has been historically excluded, and interrupt that hot mess that's been created in our country. That is our mission. Now, as a principal, or even if you're a school leader of some way, shape, or form, I'm going to now walk through a lot of the things that really just help that inclusivity. And this is like a very easy checklist that I really recommend to folks who may be new to a site to really gauge what does my site look like on the day-to-day, and how am I making sure that it includes everyone and that everyone has access. So the first thing I always say, the first strategy is walk your school. Go into every nook and cranny, every fence line, and really be aware of the landscape and what might be a prohibited space that should not be. Thinking about how students move around, how staff move around, what are barriers that we could remove? It could be on the yard, it could be the way we flow on the yard, it could be a way a classroom is set up, the front side of the school, whatever areas. We just have to be really aware of our landscape and try to remove any physical barriers that may be existing for anyone on our campus. So that is a number one to do. And I always encourage us to do this in groups, to walk around the campus and really be observant, take notes, work with facilities departments to eliminate those barriers that exist. And it can be very easy. It can be simple as marking an area with paint or moving a plant. It can be very simple things just to think about. So that is always number one to do, walk your school site. I also recommend my last principalship. I walked my school site. There were thorny bushes coming through a fence that summer. I did not wear gloves. I tried taking them down and I ended up with cut hands. So be careful with what you're doing too, okay? Just be really aware. Along with that, really analyzing school procedures. Drop off, pick up. What does that look like? Where are buses dropping off? If you have students with special needs that have certain accessibility issues with how they move or how they walk or how they get around, are we making sure that we're providing them a ramp, the right space to move into a classroom? Are we giving them an accessible gate? Do we have a buzzer? All those things for the ins and outs, the egress, the ingress at a site are so important to analyze. Are we making students walk a silly path to go to recess that's unnecessary? Thinking about all that. So what are our procedures that started the start of the school day to the end of the school day? How we move around our site? What does that look like? And is it open for everyone? Some school sites have really wonky setups. And so how can we fix those within, again, our locus of control? So it's a little easier to flow around our site with our needs. Why do you put kindergartners at the back of a school site? They often have the littlest legs. Maybe they should be near the front. Okay, so thinking about all that is very, very important. And that goes along with accessibility. So probably a lot of us have always seen this comic. I include it in a lot of my UDL workshops. So I'll read it to you because I find the comic very, very powerful. And so we see what we assume are students, one of them sitting in a wheelchair, who says, "Could you please shovel the ramp?" Now, it looks like it must be an adult, possibly a school employee with a shovel. They respond, "Well, all these other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them off, then I will clear the ramp for you." Student in the wheelchair responds, "But if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in." Those simple things, folks, simple things we can do to eliminate barriers quickly. We can all go up a ramp. Just thinking about where students sit, what they need in a classroom, all very, very important. So just for some of us, it's a mind shift. For some of us, we've been doing this for years, so let's make it a regular practice for accessibility in a classroom, especially for our students who may be medically fragile or immobile. Where is their classroom on the site? I had a preschool special day class for years that I had many students who were immobile. And when I first arrived, the classroom was in the basement of the school. You actually had to go downstairs or an elevator to get to it. No bueno. We moved that classroom because we needed folks to be able to get in and out easily. And then thinking about fun stuff, events and assemblies, who's invited? When I talked about having different preschool programs at my site, I did empathy interviews with staff to find out what was going well, what was not. And immediately, my preschool teachers were telling me, "Chad, we never get invited to anything." I said, "Well, why not?" They didn't know. They had no answer. They're like, "Well, we have a different principal and we just don't think they think about us." So what did we do as a site? My cute little preschoolers came to every assembly, were invited to every event. No, they always had the option to decline if it didn't fit within the schedule, or the teacher was like, "You know what, Chad, I love it, but I don't think my kiddos are ready to ride BMX bikes today." I honor that, but the open invitation to everyone on your site for all these events and assemblies. I remember I had to work really closely with a PTA for years because we always had these annual carnivals and festivals, and they weren't inviting everyone. And we actually, amazingly, even altered the schedule that first year at my site, that we opened the event, the festival, a half hour early for our students in our preschool special day class. So they had full access to everything openly without a lot of obstacles. And it was beautiful to see these families have that time with their students to enjoy games and rides when they weren't bombarded by lots of noise, lots of people. We gave them that opportunity. And that was just a little tweak to a schedule on a Saturday to make everyone feel very included in that very special event. And they were welcome to stay, of course, through the whole thing. But, you know, some kiddos may dysregulate with, I get dysregulated with lots of people, lots of noise, and I don't have an identified learning need. So we had to be respectful of that. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to do, and it became a tradition of our PTA for all of our events. So really just thinking about when you plan these things, how are we making sure everyone will feel comfortable? And then what can we do to make sure that comfort exists? And then, oh, I have to add always one more thing too here. Always being very aware of economics. If you're charging for things, thinking about how can we build ways to open it to everyone socioeconomically so they have access. So we actually gave free tickets to all the folks who came. You got so many free tickets when you showed up. That way everyone had the opportunity to enjoy a game, enjoy a treat, so on and so forth. And the PTA fiscally helped create that along with me as a principal to make sure we could do that for all of our families. Along with procedures, emergency drills. At our San Mateo County, we are very near to what we call our Big Five. That's the icon you see there. And really thinking about emergency drills and where we're having children and staff walk or go to and accessibility. Does it make sense? Of course, we need to follow protocols, but does it make sense what we're doing to follow that protocol? Very, very important to do. Also being very aware of noises that happen during drills. Can we alter that alarm? How do we front load for students? All those things to really help with their regulation during a school day. I'm very happy we have moved on to trauma-informed practices, especially within our drills. That's something like a lockdown barricade is done very differently in many of our schools now, that we don't reenact the really scary event to its full extent. We abbreviate it just with the thing that students need to know how to do, like be quiet and close the doors. So really thinking about all those drills and how are we making them safe for everyone. I always made sure all of my special day class teachers especially had their own walkie-talkies that they had every day for communication. So think about those pieces too, because they may be having to access or go to places in a different way that you want to make sure everyone is safe. So communication, having walkie-talkies to all those folks, very important. So identifying all that within your drill protocols. And then doing this collaboratively. I always had an emergency school procedures team. Myself, I never had the luxury of having an assistant principal. When I was an assistant principal, that was great. But elementary, I was the one administrator on campus. So I had to involve other voices in this to make sure that I was seeing all aspects. Very, very important. And thank you, Kristen. Yes, accessible language. Yes, making sure all of that is there. Okay, thinking more about community as well. Who's invited to all of these certain organizations? PTA or PTO, you really have to look at these folks and are those folks on that leadership team representative of our school community? And folks, I know it's hard. And sometimes you got to do personal outreach to get folks onto that. It might involve respectful bribery, whatever you can do to really get those important voices in the room for organizations that, you know, make really lofty, heavy decisions for school sites. So a PTA, a school site council, the English Language Advisory Committee, if you're within a community school, the steering committees and all leadership teams, really making sure they're open to everyone. I found it so exciting in one of my principalships that my preschool special day class, I've mentioned them a few times, it was unique that they came to my site only for preschool because we did not have special day class, kinder and up. So these families may be with us for a matter of months to maximum 2 to 3 years. But I had a few parents that actually got involved in our PTA as in leadership roles, even knowing it's going to be a brief honeymoon, but they're going to enjoy it while they can. That's because the invitation was there. I had folks roping them in, coming in, joining that space. And so it was really wonderful to see that inclusion occur on our leadership teams. And I loved it. I loved it. So really just thinking about how do we get those invitations? And if that's you as a site leader, calling, meeting folks and giving them that personal invite, do it. Another great way is make everyone who's on it, bring a friend the next meeting. Or bring someone they haven't met, extend the invitation. So different ways to build those out. Also very important, thinking about access to data and student information systems. One of my sites, I was over a year into my principalship, and this was my fault for not asking or investigating further. I had no idea that some of my classrooms, because of their designation within our district, did not have access to our information system. That blew my mind. They could not see everything that other students could, as other students' families could see. So it's working with folks within your data teams, your information technology teams, to make sure that everyone has the appropriate access within all those systems. It's very vital if parents can look up their students' attendance. They can look up their academics. They can look up their test scores. Then also internally, I always had to go to 2 different schools essentially to be able to see things because we were struggling to integrate my 2 different programs. So how can we, within information technology, remove that barrier and make it one equitable system so we have access to all? Always important to do, and I'm not an IT expert, so I leave that magic to those that are to really figure out that, but it's very important to accomplish. And school communication. So along with those systems, making sure that everyone is receiving your school communication. Talking about those systems again, months went by and I realized at one of my sites that a certain grade level weren't receiving our weekly newsletters. I had no idea until parents started to catch on and they were like, Mr. Slife, we're not getting these newsletters. And I had to go and see that they were actually thrown into a different system within our communication platform. So it's really going through that checklist to make sure, like, does every grade level, does everyone have access to how we communicate with our families? Whether it's through a school messenger, school loop, whatever you use, very, very important to make sure that all those are there. So just another thing on your checklist. And this goes to asking these questions. So thinking about who gets the invitation, who feels welcomed, who feels included. And if you're struggling to answer everyone or all, we need to do a systems analysis, a needs assessment on that, get to the root cause of what's going on and how do we fix it. So who gets the invitation, who feels welcomed, who feels included? Asking those questions at your sites or district offices. So the Inclusive School Networks has this great checklist here that'll just read you, and I think it's very, very helpful. So when you go to the presentation later, if you want to get or take a screenshot right now, but reviewing aspects of inclusive education, stating your support, assigning special education staff to grade level or department teams, providing planning teams across grade levels, across specialties, providing that time, ensuring access to the general curriculum for all, communicating the needs of accommodations, having meetings together to talk about student needs. Very important, creating schedules that are inclusive of everyone. Very, very important to think about, and that goes even back to school procedures, making sure that we are all moving around the school appropriately and sharing space together. Including our school communities within the process, having student voice in the process, family voice in the process, and most importantly, when you get some of the data, celebrating your successes to all your stakeholders, inwardly and outwardly, very, very important. So, some next steps for you. 1, reject the status quo of how special education operates. Get rid of the segregated programs. Get rid of the dominant ideologies that exclude communities that are most marginalized. Folks, we gotta do it. We gotta shake it up, disrupt it, interrupt it. We've been talking about this for a very long time. We have to develop our skill to really recognize, interrogate, address the racism, ableism, other forms of marginalization that go on in our communities. Call it out, call it out. And then also remember to practice patience with yourself. I know we're all here because we want to change the world, but it's not going to happen today. I'm sorry, it won't happen tomorrow, but we can start planting the seeds for the change. I always tell teachers, I was just telling it to us middle school yesterday, when they're like getting frustrated about restorative practice is not working. I said, folks, you have to believe in the system, patience and faith. And we know those have been in the classroom a long time or around the classroom a long time. We may not see the change today, tomorrow, or next year of that student, but we may see it 20 years from now. So just keep on doing what you're doing. I had a student recently, I had him in 8th grade in 2008. And a year ago, I hear this yell near my house out of a car, Mr. Slife. This was a student who, unfortunately, I'd be a lot better teacher today, but he spent about 60% of his time in my classroom. The rest of the time was in other spaces, sometimes the office for needs. But the fact that something I did right about making him feel included, he hollered at me from his car. And then through his car, we talked about him, his job, his girlfriend at length. And it was the most beautiful thing to see, like, we just got to keep that patience and belief in what we do because we are making change, positive change. So closing out optimistically, if you want to go to the chat here, just think about a takeaway you have from this session that'll help me too. Hopefully I made sense and I gave you a little nugget of something that you would feel important to share with fellow school leaders. And if you feel comfortable, why? So as we're wrapping up, I'm going to give a minute. We will have a little time for any thoughts or questions too. And then I know Kristen has some words at the end as well. But any so what takeaways we have, if you want to populate the chat, that would be awesome. So I'll give a moment for that. Yeah, thank you for it. Human need is to belong. Yep. It just takes one person to put out that hand, say those words to make someone feel included. Then as you do that, my contact information is there. I know I need to put that video in the chat real quick, but that would mean I'm gonna make the screen look not as pretty for you. So I'm gonna see what I can do here in a moment. It is on Edutopia and also YouTube. Edutopia, if you don't use Edutopia, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to probably start paying them soon for how many videos I take from their resources, because they're great and they're brief, 3 to 5 minute, great encapsulating videos. Let's see what else we have here in the chat. Thank you to those who've gone in there. Yeah, Rebecca, thank you. Changing the status quo. Erica, thank you for getting a better understanding. A role for your site. Awesome. Yes, it all starts with belonging, holding space to tell our story. Thank you, Heather. Kind of feel like a Peloton instructor now, giving shout outs. Mary, creating an environment where everyone feels welcome and included. Thank you. Janelle, systems are, yes, it all starts with the systems that we're working within. How do we make them inclusive with a sense of belonging? Suzanne, yes, all aspects of the school site, from the physical to the theoretical. Think about who is invited, who's not. Aaron, thank you. Yeah, we have to remember the quieter voices, we need to amplify those voices. Technology, location of classrooms. And yes, it's as simple as saying good morning, hello to people when they're walking on your school site. It's that easy, folks. Thank you for those. And I'd love to open up. Kristen, is it okay if I stop sharing and I can dig up that video? Okay. So folks, I believe if you go to the presentation, you'll have my contact information if you want any follow-up. I will be a little busy tomorrow at my doctoral graduation, but I'll be back in the office, back at it next week. So I'd love to collaborate together. And I'll go ahead and stop sharing and put that video. And if we have any questions, and Kristen, please feel free to interject when we need to make our final words.
Definitely wanted to leave space for questions. So if there are any, please go ahead and put them in the chat or feel free to unmute. So we'll give you guys a little bit of time just to save that space. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Slife. And thank you everyone in attendance for your commitment to our students with disabilities and their families. It's our mission to accelerate our educational system, innovate, include, and impact outcomes positively for all, from birth to childhood and beyond. This presentation, slides, and resources will be able to be accessible in the session description section on the agenda page. If you have any additional questions, please head over to the information booth and you can find an answer there. Be sure to join us for Tune Up with your favorite lady on the ones and twos, DJ B Diamond. And that's right now, well, 11. And also connect with other attendees in the social lounge. Don't forget to also stop and take a selfie at the photo booth and share it on the socials at SIP Inclusion with hashtag SIPCOM2024. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to stay and ask them. And we're here for you, and see you in another session. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you everyone so much.